What's going on, wrestling fans? Jeff Upson. I'm alongside Eric Knopfner. You are now tuned in to the PA Power Hour. Eric, we got to hang out on Sunday up in Williamsport, Mother's Day. That was
Yeah.
a lot of fun. First time we saw each other in a while, right? I feel like it's been a while since we saw each other.
Was it I'm trying to remember. Did we see each other in 2020 or 21
Yeah,
at all?
Powerade, right?
Okay, Powerade. Yeah. Yeah, you're
Um,
right.
but I
Yeah,
think that
it's been a while though.
yeah, that was it's been a long time, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, it was fun. It was fun. The Lock Haven, the Matt Town duels were a lot of fun. I had just gotten back from Journeymen in New York, so it was a long drive. It was 8 hours from Pittsburgh to New York, and then New York to Williamsport, and then Williamsport to Pittsburgh for my wife's first ever Mother's Day. So
I'm
she let me
glad
in.
to see she let you back in the
I was gonna
house.
say she let me in the house.
That's good.
I got a really cool gift. This is pre the trip, so and her sister came and brought it, so it was kind of nice, and we got to
Nice.
hang out with the Cahill brothers, the Cahill
Yeah, that
boys
was awesome.
up at Lock
I'm
Haven as well.
representing the Berlin shirt tonight.
Yeah, I see that. I like that. We got a lot to talk about here, Eric. First thing we're gonna do is talk to Grace Stem of Baltimore area, who just made a Cadet World Team. Really looking forward to talking to her. Basically, spent a lot of time in the girls scene as of recently, and we talk about Montana DeLauder, Lily Scher, Tiffany Boblitz. But Grace Stem is kind of she's becoming the next big name in girls wrestling in Pennsylvania. So I'm really looking forward to talking to her, Eric. And I know you've had a chance to talk to her a few times. So yeah, that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, she's somebody that, I've known a decent amount about in District 6 because she's done well wrestling boys here. And, it's awesome now for her to get that opportunity to go out and wrestle against the girls in freestyle and make a Cadet World Team. So fantastic job by her, and excited to have her on the show here and get her thoughts as she gets ready for Budapest.
Yeah, just another Pennsylvania wrestler going to Budapest, right? It's pretty cool that we have one. We have a wrestler in all three divisions, if you will. Girls, Greco, and freestyle. Bo Bassett, Caden Williams, Levi Haynes, of course, and Grace Stem. So, it's going to be a lot of fun out in Budapest, Eric. And I know you're excited, right?
I am. Got my flights booked this week.
That's good because
Yeah.
you need to have the flights booked before you're not going to take a boat there, are you?
No, and as long as I get the credential now, that's the next step in the hotel. But that got the first part out of the way.
Well, that's probably the most important part, other than the credential, right? So we'll work on that. Gary
I
Abbott.
could just hang outside and be like, "Hey, how'd you do?"
I mean, you could always do what I did at Junior Worlds and try to fight the French security guards to get in. Oh
I
man,
might have to. We'll see.
the stories that we have from that trip were great. They're incredible. Let's. I'm going to bring on Grace here to talk a little bit about her weekend down in Texas. Quite a trip down to Texas. Hey, Grace, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Well, thank you first and foremost for coming on and talking to us. And Eric and I were just talking about the girls movement in Pennsylvania, and of course we know a lot about Montana DeLauder, Lily Scher, Tiffany Boblitz, and you were kind of that next big name coming up through, and that kind of was solidified by you making a Cadet World Team. First, tell us how you've got into the sport of wrestling and what it's been like for you wrestling up in Baltimore area.
Um, Honestly, I haven't been wrestling for very long. I've been wrestling for like 4 years. I started in like fourth grade. Um, but I broke my arm in my first match.
Oh my, your first match.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh my.
But I would have to say like what first got me started was Brad Pataki. You probably have heard of him.
Sure.
He started a girls program like before I started wrestling again, and that's kind of like what got me back into it.
Was there hesitation there? You said you broke your arm in your first match. I mean, how do you overcome that? I think there has to be some fear the next time you go out on a wrestling mat, isn't there?
Honestly, I wasn't really timid at all. Like I always wanted to do it again after that, but it was more so my parents that didn't want me to do it.
Did
And
they know much about wrestling when you got started?
Oh yeah, my dad, he wrestled in high school, and we always went to the Penn State matches. Yeah, we've been going to rec hall and watching them wrestle since I was little, so
I feel like there was a stem. So I graduated in 2006, and we wrestled Balgo area, and I thought there was a Travis Stem. Is that a relation to you? They're also from Balgo area.
I get that question a lot, but no, we're not related.
No, man,
He
they're like
coached me.
okay. That's pretty interesting that you have this. That's like Eric down in where he's at. There's a lot of same last names, but not always of relation. Grace, you wrestled in 3 state tournaments at the My House Girl State Tournament, finishing third, second, and then this year you won it. Talking about how you were able to step up that podium, from third, second to first, and what it felt like to finally get that state championship medal this year.
I mean, it felt great. I mean, I was super happy that I was finally able to accomplish that. I think that the competition has um changed a little, but
Mm.
like in a good way. But I mean, this year, honestly, my bracket wasn't as big as it was in the past. But I mean, I'll just go out there and face any obstacle that I have to.
And was the plan always to try to make a world team? I mean, I know like you said, you really only have been actively wrestling for the last 4 years. A lot of wrestlers, boys especially, will say, I've been dreaming of this since I was in kindergarten. Was it always a goal of yours to make a cadet world team, or was that just kind of something that were like, hey, yeah, I'll do this, I'll wrestle in this and see what happens?
Honestly, if you would have asked me like 2 years ago, even like if I thought I could do this, I would have never thought that I could have accomplished this. Um, but yeah, I mean, a big goal of mine is I want to wrestle in the Olympics someday, and I think I'm on my way there, hopefully.
Well, this is a good first step. What was your mindset going into this? Were you confident that you could come out of the bracket as a winner at the Cadet Worlds, or how were you feeling as you headed down to Texas?
I felt pretty confident, but I was also like, there could be a girl there that might beat me, and I was okay with that, even if I wanted to do it. But I did realize that I I came out on top, so
You had talked about other girls there that were tough. You had a really tough quarterfinal match, right? You were down
def-
you were down 6-0 in the second period. You gave, I think it was 4-0 after the first, gave up a takedown in the second, so you were down 6-0. Destiny Rodriguez, I believe it was, from Oregon. You stormed back to get a win. I mean, that's to feel pretty good, but also a little scary when you're down 6-0. You're 4 points away from being teched and put down in the consolation bracket.
definitely I mean, when I was down 6-0, I definitely thought I was gonna lose at that point. I thought I was gonna get teched, to be honest, but I stayed in there.
And how
What was
much?
that feeling like then whenever you came back and not only won that one, but you come back and win a title and qualify for the world team?
I was super proud of myself, and I feel like the hard work that I've been putting in, like training at M2 and lifting and stuff, I feel like it's paying off, and I was really, really happy with it.
And how? I mean, it's special, but it's also impactful. The M2 training center up there with David Taylor, and you had mentioned Brad Pataki. How much of an influence has that really had on you and your wrestling career up to this point?
I feel like I wouldn't be any anywhere close to where I am if it weren't for M2. It's definitely had a huge influence on my wrestling and helped me to improve my technique and have me help me have more confidence in my wrestling as well.
And going forward, obviously, you're training for the world championships. And you also have Levi Haynes, who's also an M2 guy, right? He comes up from Biglerville. Have you two talked like, hey, we're going to Budapest together? That's gotta be pretty cool. M2's got two wrestlers going to Budapest.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. I mean, I'll bet the coaches are pretty happy with that.
What have you traveled internationally before? What's this going to be like for you? Not just the wrestling side of it, but just the life experience of getting to go to someplace like Budapest and, experience something like that.
I've never traveled internationally before, so it's gonna be a really great experience, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's like out of the country.
You talked about, about how obviously this is freestyle for you. How does it compare? We've talked a lot on the show about, trying to forward the sanction PA movement and allow girls to have their own competition under the PIAA. How much different is it for you to be able to go out and wrestle a girl in freestyle versus, suiting up for your high school team and wrestling a boy in folk style?
Folk style is definitely way more grueling, and it's a, the it's a lot it's a lot different to wrestle the boys in the folk style season than the girls in freestyle. Um, the girls typically have a lot more freestyle experience than I do. I haven't been training freestyle for very long. Well, I guess the boys have a lot more experience than I do too. Uh,
What would it mean to you? Unfortunately, we're probably not going to get an actual, high school girls season in time for you, really. But what would it mean for girls to get that movement going and actually get a sanctioned PIAA high school girls team, like a tournament?
I think that would be amazing, and it'd be a huge step for women's wrestling and girls wrestling. I mean, Pennsylvania's kind of behind. I think there's already like, I want to say like 26 maybe, or like somewhere in between 26 and 30 states that are already sanctioned. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
huge.
it's frustrating that, as good as we are in boys and men's wrestling, that we're so far behind on the women's side of it that we just can't get that, and hopefully we're getting there. But like I said, for people like you that are already in high school, it's going to be difficult to get that in time and, have that impact. Do you see yourself as a role model for girls that are coming up and, what they can do?
Yeah, I try to set a good example for girls who are coming up. I actually just presented a proposal to get a girls' team at my high school.
Oh wow.
So hoping that they approve that, and hopefully we're gonna visit some of the elementary schools to try to get some of the girls to come out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we've seen it all across the state where the programs that already have girls in them, Gettysburg, Delaware Valley, Central Mountain, they're sanctioning teams. Easton, um, Central Mountain right up the road from you has a girls team, so that's got to show you and kind of give you momentum to say, okay, if Central Mountain can do it, we're just down the road from them. Why can't we? So I'm sure that's helped you, and you're trying to get your proposal across. Correct?
Oh, definitely. We definitely reference them a lot in the proposal. I think that they'd be more inclined to approve it with that with them as an example.
Right. Well, Grace, we can't wait to see you out in Budapest. Continue training hard. I know, your coaches are going to get you prepared for Budapest. We at PA Power Wrestling are super proud of you to continue the trend, the upward trend of girls wrestling in PA. So, we just appreciate all your efforts because without people like you, we probably wouldn't be able to get a sanctioned PA movement. So we just appreciate all your efforts, and we look forward to seeing you out in Budapest.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And
it was great having you on, Grace. And like I said, I'll be seeing you in Budapest for sure. So we'll, if nothing else, we'll get to meet in person then.
well, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Grace. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Eric, that was a great. I mean, she kind of tied it all in together. It was great.
Yeah.
We didn't give her questions or anything beforehand, but the way that she kind of segued into all the different aspects of talking about M2 and talking about Brad Pataki, David Taylor, but then also about the differences in folk style and freestyle, and how typically she's not really she's not really training as much, right? So it's pretty cool to hear her talk about that, and yeah, I'm really looking forward. A very well spoken young woman, and I'm just excited to see the future for what she has coming up here in Pennsylvania and also in the world.
Yeah, and I was thinking of it as we were doing the interview. It's almost unfair. We don't ask boys to be champions for wrestling and be out there pushing the sport at all opportunities, but the girls that are in it, we almost expect them
Yeah.
to be advocates for the sport and to be out there pushing for it. And so in some ways it's kind of unfair that we're like, "Hey, you're a girl wrestling, you got to be out there pushing the sport and trying to get more girls teams and all that." We don't have those expectations on the boys' side.
It's so incredible because I mean you say like unfair. It's certainly unfair because for boys and guys it's just hey, you go out and wrestle. We're not asking you to be ambassadors, petitioners. I mean, she just said I got done talking to a school board about trying to sanction that you're how I mean she's a teenager. She's a high school student and she's going to in front of boards to try to get this sanction. So mature. I mean, look at how mature she is, and look how mature these young girls that are coming up through. And that's not just because of wrestling. That's because of the challenges that Pennsylvania women wrestling are facing. Because you not only have to be a good wrestler, you have to be an advocate, you have to be a coach, you have to be somebody who's out there on the front lines. And that's why we give so much credit to Lily Scher and all the things that she's been trying to do. Because she knows it's more than just wrestling. This is about the girls that are coming up years and years behind her. So it's just incredible to see. It's unfair, but it's also it's hopeful, right, for the future.
Yeah, and I mean, again, just my mind's going, and I'm thinking about, we still talk to this day about how Carlton Hasselrig won a state title without having a team.
Right.
None of these girls have teams
None of
really.
them.
They're all out there. I mean, she has a boys team, but she made a world team. I mean,
Yeah.
think about that. She's
Yeah.
not able to wrestle girls on a regular basis, but she just went out and made a world team. How freaking cool is that?
When you put it like that, Eric, that's kind of incredible because, like you said, she doesn't even have a team at her high school. Yes, she's a boys team, but there's not a girls
It's
team.
literally not the same
It's
sport.
completely different, right? It's apples and oranges, right? Now you're saying not only do you not have a team at your local high school, you're now on a world team representing the entire country, the entire United States, and yet we don't even have the program at your local high school for you to compete and participate in. I mean, when you put it like that, Eric, I mean, it's pretty shocking. And we're gonna.
It's just awesome how well these girls are able to do in the face of the circumstances that they're dealing with.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're gonna look back on this and say, 10 years from now and say, can you remember those trailblazers? Can you remember those names that came up through? And, I think of Erin Tomei and of course, she was kind of like one of the first, and we're always just going to remember those names that are coming up through that are, blazing those trails for the next generation of girls wrestling. So yeah, we're super, excited for Grace. And I liked what she said when she was down 6-0 in the second period. She was like, I thought I was going to get teched. Like, I mean, of course. And anyone who says they're not afraid that they're going to be teched after being down 6-0 is lying to you, because of course that crosses your mind. However, it's how you deal with that and how you can say, you know what, I can get a takedown and a turn and be right back in this match. And clearly that's what she did in the quarterfinals, because she came back after that, got a tech in the semifinals, and then won the best out of 3 in two tight matches. So I think she's battle tested. She's ready to rock and roll, and she's got a really cool, calm, demeanor about herself that I think she's just kind of roll with the punches and go out there and not get too worked up and not get stuck in her own head.
Well, let's look at it this way. The first time she ever goes out on a wrestling match for a competitive match, she breaks her arm. And
True.
then, as we said, she doesn't have a girls' team. She's not able to do that. The obstacles she faced down 6-0 probably pale in comparison to the
Yeah.
other things she's had to overcome so far.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. Texas was full of Pennsylvania girls wrestling down in at the girls championship, and we had a world team for also U23s, but also juniors and cadets. And a lot of Pennsylvania wrestlers competed in it. The U23 Ava Bayless took seventh at 50 kilograms. And of course, we just talked about her, Montana DeLauder. She took seventh in both the U23s and the juniors. Val Baker takes sixth at the same weight class. So a couple, Pennsylvania representatives at the U23 championships. At the junior UWW World Team Trials, there was quite a few that got close but just couldn't quite get there. Ava Bayless was fourth. Abigail Duke was sixth at 50 kilograms. Montana DeLauder, as I mentioned earlier, she was seventh at 57 kilograms. Grace actually competed in both juniors and cadets. So, she doubled up. She wrestled in both divisions, which you see a lot with the girls. You see them. I can remember Val Baker wrestling. I feel like she wrestled juniors when she was still in junior high. Like she always wrestled up juniors and also cadets. So Grace wrestled in juniors and took seventh. Now Karina Blades, who we all know, the name Blades now, Kennedy Blades, her younger sister, took first at that bracket. So no shame there. And then obviously she came back to win the cadet world championship spot. Caitlin Clausen took eighth at 43 kilograms. And Grace obviously won the 65 kilograms. Abby Miles took sixth at 73, and Caitlin Pagarella she took 70 at the 73 kilograms. She took seventh. So a lot of Pennsylvania girls wrestlers were down there. Great to see that, and but we need more, Eric. We need more. We need more of the sanctioned PA movement going. We're still behind, and I think Brad Wilson said in his article, he's like, if we're going at this rate, we'll have girls sanctioned by 2030. So we need to either pick it up, or we need to have the PIAA maybe reconsider.
Well, and again, that's, what's so impressive about these girls that are blazing these trails is in a lot of ways it's selfless, because they know that there's a good chance it's not going to benefit them. It's for the girls down the road, because by the time we get to 100 schools, if that's what the PIAA is going to make it stick to, these girls are going to be out of high school, and it's going to be someone else that is benefiting from it. So they're doing a lot of work that probably isn't going to help them.
I mean, them directly, absolutely. We talked about how, Grace will be out of high school by the time we get something sanctioned in Pennsylvania. And she brought up a good point. I mean, we are, as a state, behind. And I know we're all kind of trying to get along and the PIAA and the sanctioned PA movement and play nice. But at some point, I mean, you asking and demanding 100 teams just start from scratch is almost like sanctioning 100 different states, right? And I think we talked about that previously. Is what they're asking is such a tall task that you have to start 100 different new programs. Not that we're going to give you this platform and we're going to give you this sport to grow it. We're saying you need to show us by giving us 100 schools, and then we'll talk about having a state championship. I mean, it's actually, if it does happen, it's pretty incredible that it would, because it's like sanctioning 100 states, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to get to. And I still firmly believe, though, that had we not had the pandemic, we would be a lot farther along than we are right now, because I know that there were schools in my area, and I'm sure across the state, that were considering it, that were talking about it. But then the pandemic hit, and a lot of the organizers are, of course, involved with the boys programs as well. And at that point, they were just kind of like, hey, what do we need to do to keep our season going that we're hoping to have? And the girls program initiative kind of fell to the back burner at that point.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that didn't help, but I still think there's, I still think there's ways in which we can help further speed this up and maybe, try to work on something where we can say, well, maybe not 100, but let's talk about, look at all the numbers, maybe like the numbers of girls wrestling. I don't know. I think I saw Iowa. I could be wrong on this, and Dyson will have to correct us because he's the Iowa guru. But I believe they had like a certain percentage that they needed to hit. Not a number, not a set number of schools, but they needed a percentage that they needed to hit. So, I mean, it's the reality we're living in. So we got to get. And the reason I saw it was because Stephanie McMahon of the WWE, I think that's still called the WWE, right? It's not.
Yeah.
Stephanie McMahon tweeted something out about getting Iowa girls wrestling sanctioned. So of course, that's obviously even though it's fake wrestling, it's still a big voice. It'd be nice if we could get some really pushing for the PIAA. And I know, talking to Pat Tossi of the National Wrestling Coaches Association, his work with everything with the sanctioned PA movement, but also Senator Scott Martin, what he's been able to do. We are planning to have both those two on to talk a little bit further about this and really what that end goal is and what the process is for us to get to that point.
Yeah, I think we're definitely making progress. It's just a lot slower than we'd like it to be.
Yeah, I mean, we're impatient, right? We're absolutely impatient. I'm an impatient person, I can tell you that. But I also look at it like, the PIAA saying, yeah, get 100. And you're like, you do realize how difficult that is in the midst of a pandemic, but also just in general, right? It's hard to start something before you even have the support and the backing. You have to pitch it to a lot of different people and get a lot of people on board for it to even matter and even to be considered. So, but hats off to Grace Stem. Again, really looking forward to her going to Budapest, Eric, and I know you're going to have a great time covering all aspects of the Cadet World Championships out in Budapest. So just another, area for you to focus on when you get out there to Hungary.
Yeah, like you said, it's really cool that we have someone in the Greco competition. We got 2 in the Greco and the boys, 2 in the boys freestyle, and then Grace in the girls. So that's awesome that we're going to be representing Pennsylvania there in Budapest. So
speaking of representing Team Pennsylvania, we took a team up to Journeymen up in New York, and I joked, I said we're basically in Canada. We were pretty far up there. I think in New York, Binghamton and Albany, we were high up there. And I loved it. So Frank Papalizio, that's kind of why I'm wearing the NC State, the Papalizio pipeline.
Did you get recruited while you were up there?
I did. I had
wrestling. Are you committing to NC State live on the show?
I didn't want to say it, Eric, but you put me on the spot. I'm going to continue my athletic and academic, and it ends up not being able to make it. Trey Kibe has an illness, and he can't make it. So luckily, we were able to substitute Luke Simcox from Central Mountain in for Jackson Arrington at 138. And then Tyler Lillard, who really was the MVP of Team PA, no doubt about it, because he went 4-0. He was like, you know what, I'll wrestle 160 and 170, no problem. This kid is a stud. Angel Escobedo has a gem coming his way to Indiana. I got to know him and his mother very well over the weekend, and just a phenomenal young kid. I couldn't have been happier to have him on the team. And, it was an inspiration to see him go out there and wrestle twice, especially in his first match against a guy who came into the WrangleMania nationally ranked, had just knocked off Gabe Arnold. So, Minnesota, I'll walk you through it, Eric. The match with Minnesota was tough, right? And we knew that coming into it. It was the first match of the tri-meet. We knew we had our hands full. We saw Minnesota in the hotel, and we were like, oof. Some of them looked like they were cutting a good amount to get down. Most of our guys were, they didn't have to cut too bad. So we're thinking, oh boy, okay. And of course, we're looking at their credentials, and okay, this guy's here, this guy's there, and we know just from seeing them in Fargo, obviously teams like Minnesota, Illinois, they're just so savvy in freestyle. So we knew that going into it. I don't know if it was the nerves, if it was just the getting the dirt off their, just trying to brush themselves off in that first match. It was a little tough, right? Landon Bainey started us off Tyler Lillard started us off. Okay, he wrestled first at 170, and then we wrapped around, and he finished at 60. So we started all our matches at 70. Tyler Lillard comes out and beats Ryder Rogotsky from Minnesota, who I got to meet their father, Eric. He was awesome. He said, I listened to your show. You guys were awesome. And he's like, and I said, I'm sorry if I butchered your name. He's like, no, it's no problem. Like, we get it all the time. It's Rogotsky. I'm like, such a solid name. And now Ryder was a little banged up. No doubt about it. But Tyler came out and really, he at the first 30 seconds. Now remember, this is the first match. In the first 30 seconds, I'm thinking, whew, I don't know if it was the weight, because he weighed in at 60 and wrestled up to 70. And I'm like, man, he looked a little, I wouldn't say flat. He just didn't look like what I had seen him on film. Then all of a sudden, after 30 seconds, it was like something clicked, and actually he got dumped on his head. He was getting taken down and landed straight on his head and neck area, and I was like, oh god, like I thought you could hear it thud, and all of a sudden something clicked. It was like he came over the corner, we're talking to him, and all of a sudden something clicked, and the in-match adjustments that he made were just incredible, because he was able to change up his game. And get his offense going, and all of a sudden he comes out in a wild match and wins it. I believe it was 18-14. That's what it was, 18-14. He won, just a wild match. So this is a kid who really turned it up for Team PA, Eric, and you would have enjoyed watching him compete up there.
I heard it was the Coach Upson advice in the corner that really turned things around for him.
Listen, I was not a coach whatsoever. I was a water boy. All right, I was a towel boy and a water boy. I was not a coach. But
you did tell me it was a lot of fun being a part of that, right? Because you felt like a part of the team. It wasn't, hey, this is a PA Power event that we're putting on, and we need to be objective, and we're not favoring this kid or this kid. This was, hey, this is PA Power, and this is our team, and we're representing Pennsylvania.
No, that part was awesome, right? Because we have to be objective, and we have, when we're in our normal world of covering wrestling, absolutely. And this was so much fun because it was a team. We're having team talks, we're having team meetings, we're going over moves and technique. I'm not. Dennis Condomiti is, and Jesse Simcox are, but we were having. It was a team atmosphere. Everyone stayed to watch everybody. Everyone had a long drive back. Every single wrestler stayed to the end of that New York match to see us come to completion. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun to see that. And Tyler Lillard was just a huge part because he was he wrestled twice. Dalton Perry, he wrestled really, really well in both matches. He kind of went behind in the first match against Minnesota, but then again, just like Tyler, was able to make some in-match adjustments. And there was some things that just didn't go our way. When you look at some of the matches, Gabe Gramley was in a 9-7 match with a guy who I think he was right there with him. I think that could have went either way. Same with Nathan Lucier. I thought he was right in that match with Nick Novak. Just a few things that he needed to clean up. But the one was Dagan Condomiti. He had probably the best 5 of the year so far. In fact, we got to get highlights. I got to reach out to him to get the highlights because Jaden Pepe was filming it and they showed it right after. It was pretty sick. But he comes back and gets pinned. He's up. I think he's up big. He's up big, and all of a sudden he gets dumped and he gets pinned. So that was a pretty big swing. Your boy Mannix Morgan, Eric, took it to Matthew Furman, who didn't know he was wrestling. So we were kind of confused because we thought we were going Tyler Lillard at 160 and then going to 106 all the way through. So it was a miscommunication.
Oh.
So Matt Furman and Sonny Sasso didn't know they were up. So all of a sudden, after Tyler Lillard won, we're like, okay, 106 Landon, and they're like, no, we're going.
170.
I'm sorry, they started at 170. We went right into 182, and Furman's like, what? And I was like, ugh, I felt bad. But also Sonny Sasso, he wasn't feeling too great, but he lost to Roman Rogotsky. He lost to him 12-12 on criteria. He was up kind of the whole match, and then just let it slip away, and he was just dog tired, man. If you watch that match, he just was giving up his legs. He took a nap, he got refreshed, and came back hard at New York. But also Riley Robel from Bish McDevitt at heavyweight, Navarro Shunky. Remember, this is a kid who won 2 state championships, and he's only a freshman. That was a wild match. Riley he kind of said afterwards, I hate freestyle. He was like, number one, 3 minutes is a long time. They're so used to wrestling 2-2-2, but the 3 and 3 was really, messing with their lungs a little bit. So at that 2-minute mark, they're like, oh gosh, like I really have another minute, another 60-second sprint that I got to go. And Shunky just I think more freestyle experience. But Riley was right there with him. And Riley went 0-2, but showed so much potential in both his matches. I think he's going to be a real star.
Is he going to continue with freestyle, or is that it for him? Is he throwing in the towel after
No,
that?
I think he's going to continue. Just in talking to him, I think he definitely is going to continue on. So after that match with Minnesota, it was 44-19. So we took a little bit of a beating, right? But we were able to have an hour and a half break. We all went, we got something to eat, kind of invigorated ourselves and got rejuvenated, and all of a sudden came back. And we had nothing to lose. Now here's the part that I liked. New York beat Minnesota. So we're all there and we're like, how bad Minnesota beat New York. And Steve O'Poolin's dad came out. I was like, no, New York's winning. Like, we're going to win this. I'm like, what? Like, because we thought we had a much better shot against New York than Minnesota. So we're like, okay, like, let's do this. Let's beat New York, and then we'll be in a 3-way tie because we're all going to be 1-1. Team New York beats Minnesota 33-30. There was a forfeit, so Ryder Rogotsky did forfeit at 170, but still a very impressive performance by Team New York, because if you look at some of the wrestlers that PA wrestlers lost to against Minnesota, a lot of them lost to guys from New York, and then PA guys went up and beat them. So they wrestled much better the second match against New York. Again, Tyler Lillard comes out, gets a tech fall at 170. Furman then comes out and gets a pin at 182 against a guy who beat Mannix. So again, kind of looking at transitive property. Sonny Sasso gets a tech fall, looked great. Seth Hunsinger, a super undersized 220-pounder. I almost said 197 because that's really what he is. Had a very close match at 220 pounds. Riley Robel was 4-4 when he got tossed. And then Landon and Dalton Perry, Landon Bainey had a great win. Both those guys got techs. Steve O'Poolin wrestled Gabe Gramley. Tough match for Gabe, but he was in that match. Carter Dybert came back, had a really good win, 13-12. Luke Simcox got a tech fall. Lucier got a win. Dagan Condomiti, finally, he got that win. That was a big, he was a big weight off his shoulder to get that. Overall, though, Pennsylvania just wrestled really, really well that second time around. It was a great showing for Team PA against New York. They ended up winning 41-23. We won. So Minnesota won on criteria. We took second, and New York took third. So not a bad trip to New York, Eric.
That's awesome. And, we always talk about the results, and, we look at, okay, who won, who lost, all that. But you take a guy like Riley Robel and you say, okay, maybe he didn't get the W's there, but the experience that he got, and just, getting a feel for freestyle and being in a different atmosphere, it's different wrestling freestyle than it is folk style, in a normal high school setting. So to get these guys out there facing some guys from across the country, I think that's really big for some of these guys and their development, not just physically, but mentally as well, being in these different situations, facing some different guys, some top ranked guys from Minnesota, from New York, and just being a part of that. I think it's good to get that different feel than what we're used to maybe here, and especially in folk style in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a learning process, right? Every single one of those wrestlers walked away with, a more experience and just a better understanding of what they need to do in order to be successful. So, yeah, I thought it was a win all around. Again, shout out Frank Popolizio, Journeymen, for putting on such a great event. But it was a lot of fun, and we've got a lot more wrestling to go. Speaking of more wrestling to go, Eric, did you see the Powerade lineup for the 2021 tournament?
That is crazy.
Yeah,
I've already put in for my days off to make sure I'm going to be at Powerade. So
you have to. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The teams that are there are absolute. There's 59 teams, so this may be the greatest Frank Volcano said this is going to be the greatest Powerade ever. And
when he says it, that it's pretty much gospel.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty good. The big powers are coming. He calls them the big three, right? St. Ed's, Blair, and Wyoming Seminary. But you have to add in that fourth with Malvern Prep. So it's almost going from a big three to a big four here with those four teams coming. Anytime you have Blair and Sem at a tournament, it's going to be one of the best in the nations. But then you throw in Del Barton, right? You have St. Ed's. You have Lake Highland Prep coming in. You've got Bergen Catholic coming in. And then let's stop there and just talk about the PA teams. Oh, Waynesburg, Candimac, North Allegheny, Notre Dame Green Pond, Erie Cathedral Prep, Reynolds, et cetera, et cetera. It's just absolutely insane that you are going to have this tournament with that much talent. I mean, 59 teams and just a ton of talent. Oh, my gosh. I mean, the list of wrestlers here that are going to be, at the Powerade tournament this year are just going to be incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be phenomenal. And, we got a Powerade last year, but it wasn't quite the same. Kudos to everybody that made it happen. But, it wasn't just, it wasn't a Cadet Mac. We didn't have all the schools there that we normally do. Still a really good tournament, not taking anything away from that. But it wasn't the Powerade feel that we're used to.
So new schools for 2021, meaning schools that didn't participate last year. Most of these have participated before. Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary in Ohio, Benton in District 4, which they've been there before. Bergen Catholic has been there before. Bishop McDevitt.
Yeah, Bergen Catholic's an awesome addition.
Huge addition. Blair Academy, obviously. Del Barton, Fort LaBeouf, Great Bridge, Virginia. Lake Highland Prep returns. Manheim Township is a good one with the Williams twins. Caden and Camden are going to come in and bring the house. In addition to all the other guys that they have, those are the two big ones, but they have a ton of other studs coming in. Kate Olivario, North Allegheny comes back. Notre Dame Green Pond, first time out. Penn Trafford returns. Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Riverbend, Virginia. State College returns. And also Williamsport out of District 4 is going to make their debut there. So, and that's not it. That's just the new teams, right? Bishop McCourt is coming back, so of course the Gibson brothers, and also a lot of other young kids that are coming up through Bishop McCourt. Now, how many of those, Eric, are coming up next year? I feel like there's only a handful. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's a little tricky because of this year especially. A couple guys repeated a grade. And I did actually saw a story in the paper today saying that PA is pushing to allow parents to decide if their kids want to repeat a grade this year. They said usually it's up to the school and the teachers, the administration, but they want parents, if they feel that their kid has not, been able to get everything that they needed because of maybe being in school, out of school, all the stuff going on with COVID, that they want parents to be able to make that ruling and say, hey, my kid, got behind this year. He or she needs to be able to repeat this year and, stay back a year.
And that's, yeah, I kind of, I skimmed that article. I didn't read it in depth, but I mean, that kind of makes sense. So it's going to be hard to decipher and figure out who's. Yeah,
I'm glad I'm not the guy that does top incoming freshmen.
Well, not only that, but it's like, okay, yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to do. But it's always.
What I didn't see, I assume that they're not going to waive the age limit.
I can't imagine that they waive the limit for the age of I don't think you can be 20 and still wrestle in the state tournament. I think that's still probably going to stick to the way it is. Would you agree?
I would think so.
So just in looking at the Powerade tournament, and again, you can go to papowerwrestling.com/Powerade and click on and see all the 59 teams that are competing, but also some stats on some of the top returners here. 7 returning Powerade champions are going to be there. So half the field, right, returning Powerade champions. 9 returning Powerade runner-ups. And, of course, I can think of a few of them off the top of my head. Rune Lawrence being a state champion. Tyler Chappell, another one there. Rocco Welsh, of course, was a runner-up this year to AHR. 105 returning Powerade place winners. That seems like an awfully high number. My gosh. And I'm sure Malvern...
And especially when you consider who wasn't there.
Well, that's true as well. Considering all the teams that were not able to make it due to COVID, it's a lot, right? So 105 returning Powerade place winners, 15 individual state champions. So 15 wrestlers were state champions that are going to be returning to wrestle in the Powerade. 27 national prep tournament qualifiers, 113 individual state tournament qualifiers, 18 New Jersey state qualifiers, and 23 Ohio state tournament qualifiers. So, I mean, you have Malvern Prep, Wyman Seminary, Blair Academy. Those three alone are going to bring a ton of nationally ranked guys, right? But then again, throw in Waynesburg, throw in Malvern Prep, throw in all.
Yeah, we're not even talking about Waynesburg.
What's that?
I said we're barely even mentioning Waynesburg in this field.
Which is crazy.
This is, I mean, the team that they had this year is arguably the best in Pennsylvania history. I mean, you could make that argument. And we're barely even mentioning them in this field because of the teams that, are coming either for the first time or because they hadn't been here for a while, just because of COVID or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Waynesburg, it should always be a headliner, but it's such a ridiculous field that we've barely even mentioned them.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. That just shows you how much depth there is here at the Powerade tournament. Like I said, Powerade tournament, all the information you'll be able to see, on our website, papowerwrestling.com/Powerade Wrestling. That's not the only tournament in PA that released their field. The Escape to Rock in 2022 returns, and we see a lot of similar names here. But overall, another fantastic field: Council Rock South, Bellefonte, Becca, Boyertown, Cannon Mac. The two Central Bucks, Central Mountain, Chambersburg, Council Rock North, Del Val, Easton, Frazier's going back out there. Faith Christian Academy is going to be there. You're also going to have some teams such as Notre Dame Green Pond, Owen J. Roberts, shout out Joe Youngblood, the Hill School, Northampton. There's going to be quite a few tough competitors there. Now, unlike Powerade, this is going to be one where there's going to be some full teams, some partial teams. Most of the big teams that we're used to seeing will be full teams. And they've got quite a few coming from out of state. Southern Columbia, I don't think I mentioned them. They'll be there as well. Carville Academy from Delaware will be there. Osceola from Florida will be there. Pope John from New Jersey will be there. St. Joe's Regional. So a lot of teams from that kind of area of Eastern PA will make the trip there. Legacy Christian from Ohio, they always bring a tough squad. Christian Brothers Academy in Jersey as well. So two back-to-back tough tournaments, two of the best, not only in the state but the nation, happening in Pennsylvania. I'm really looking forward to covering both these tournaments, Eric, and of course we didn't even mention Ironman. Ironman's got a whole bunch of PA teams wrestling in that as well.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that, we talked about it all year. We were happy with what we could get this year, just having a season, getting a state tournament in, all that was awesome. So we're glad that we were able to do that. But man, it's going to be fun to get back to quote unquote normal and have, an Ironman, a Powerade, a Beast of the East, Escape the Rock, all these big tournaments that we live for.
Yeah, I mean, just the feel of having that big tournament, having the finals of Powerade. The finals of Powerade they're incredible, right? It's a show, right? It's a production, and it's Frank and his team just do an amazing job. So it must be something to name Frank. You got Frank Papalizzi up in New York doing big things for tournaments. You got Frank Volcano down here. Maybe I should have named my son Frank, Eric. There's a lot of teams from PA heading out to Cuyahoga Falls for the Ironman tournament. State College is going to be heading out there. Also Bishop McCourt, so a couple District 6 teams there. Bishop McCourt obviously having guys like Mason Gibson, Eric Gibson. Frazier is making the trip out there. I believe Reynolds, the Hill School is there. Wyman Seminary, Waynesburg, Notre Dame Green Pond, Malvern Prep. Maybe Reynolds isn't there. I thought Reynolds was. Becca is heading out there.
Back up a second. So Frazier is at all three.
Yeah.
Powerade, Escape the Rock, and Ironman.
Correct. Yep.
So Rune Lawrence, that's awesome. We saw how good he was this year as a freshman, but next year it's gonna be like, okay, we've seen what you can do against Pennsylvania's best. Let's see how you do against the nation's best.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be battle tested, right? And teams like Malvern Prep will be at all three. The guys that came up through Malvern Prep, I can remember years where they went to Beast too. So they had Ironman, Beast, Powerade, Escape the Rock, right, and National Prep. So,
well, and remember when we talked to
Spencer Barnhart.
Spencer Barnhart last week, he said that was actually really difficult for him and kind of, beat down his confidence that he liked this year, not having those four, the gauntlet to go through to get the national prep. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting to look at that and say, okay, you're getting the great competition, but do you take too much sometimes and maybe bite off a little more than you can chew?
And I was correct. Reynolds is going there. So a lot of PA wrestlers and teams will be represented at the 2021 Ironman. Just really looking forward to, like you said, I just get excited thinking about having these tournaments back, having Powerade, having Ironman and Escape the Rock, and just getting back to some level of normalcy in wrestling is going to be a lot of fun. And of course, we got a lot of stuff for us. We've got the Surge, we got another True Power coming up, so we've got a lot of stuff, to look forward to in the hopper for us at PA Power. But overall, everything's looking good, Eric. I want to knock on wood, but things are feeling pretty good. We got, girls wrestling expanding. We've got multiple wrestlers on the world team headed to Budapest. We've got the Surge coming back. We've got Powerade, Escape the Rock, Ironman all happening. It's looking good. Prognosis is looking good, Eric.
Yeah, we need to make these full-time jobs, Jeff. We need to bump that up there and be able to do this full time.
That would be nice. If you'd like to see that happen, go ahead and hit that tip button and go ahead and tip us. And it would be great.
It'll take a few, but every little bit helps.
If you notice, like I'm clean shaven, my poor face had to take a beating after 2 months of not having to shave. I've returned to work in my real job, the job that actually pays my bills, and I had to shave, unfortunately. It was really nice, man, not only to be with my son, but also to not be in my other job and to focus on wrestling and grow the brand of PA Power Wrestling. And it was a taste of like what could be. So go ahead, please hit the tip button if you feel so inclined. But it doesn't matter if you don't. We're still going to be doing what we do because that's just how we are. We're gluttons for punishments. We just like this weekend, my wife's like, "What is it worth it? What you're doing?" I'm like, "It doesn't matter. If it's worth it of me driving 8 hours from Pittsburgh to New York, then and getting really little sleep and going from New York to Williamsport and sleeping over there, and then getting up at 6 o'clock to go set up for a dual live event, and then drive home and be home at 9 o'clock. Is it worth it? Financially, I don't know, probably not, but it's
that's
worth it.
Like you ask a high school wrestling coach, who's getting paid a couple $1,000s a year, to work how many hours? Like if you figure it out, they're making, probably less than $1 an hour throughout the season.
Right.
But, it's not why we do it.
Nope.
We do it because we love the sport and we want to try to give back to it that, the sport that gave us so much. And so, we try to do this, we'd love to be able to do it full time. Unfortunately, that's a pretty tough thing to make happen. So we'll continue plugging away, doing what we can here, and hopefully the people enjoy it.
Absolutely. And we have a lot more in store coming at you from PA Power Wrestling. I'm sure next week we'll dive into all of that. Eric, thanks to Grace Stem for coming on and having the chance to talk to her about her making the Cadet World Team. Just a very well-spoken young lady who I'm really looking forward to seeing out in Budapest and seeing how she's able to do at the World Championships, but also, next year and seeing if she can be a leading force in getting Baltigo area to sanction a team there to get us one step closer to that 100 team mark.
Yeah, it was awesome having her on, get to talk to her a little bit and get her name out there. And, as you said, kind of one of the rising stars, the next group of great PA female wrestlers. So awesome to have her on and looking forward to seeing her in Budapest.
Well, Eric, it was great seeing you on Sunday up in Williamsport. Hopefully we can do it again real soon. And in the meantime, keep it classy, wrestling fans. We'll see you next week on the PA Power Hour. Thanks for tuning in.